The 2023 general elections in Nigeria witnessed certain challenges with transparency, logistics, security. Observers highlighted these issues, prompting calls for electoral reforms. In response, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has proposed 142 recommendations targeting critical areas like voter management, result transmission, and electoral offenses. Additionally, the proposals, many of which are being considered by the National Assembly, include all elections in one single day to improve transparency and reduce costs, as well as implementing voting for single-day elections. Workers such as observers, ad hoc staff, and INEC officials to allow them to vote during and before elections, actual election day. This is the central question that remains debated, and which of these reforms will most effectively address transparency and operational challenges in Nigeria's elections. I am Ezenwawagu. Welcome to Electoral Reform Half Hour on NTA News 24 Abuja. This program is brought to you by Peering Advocacy and Advancement Center in Africa with support from MacArthur Foundation. Our guest tonight is Faith Nwadishi, Executive Director of Center for Transparency and Advocacy, with over 20 years' experience in promoting transparency, accountability, and resource governance in Nigeria. Faith Nwadishi leads efforts to monitor government service delivery, openness, and empower citizens to demand accountability. A chartered negotiator, mediator, and gender expert, she specializes in extractive industry transparency and is committed to advancing gender equality and women's participation in the sector. I want to welcome you, especially Faith Nwadishi.
Thank you for having me. Good evening.
Yes,
Good evening,
I feel really excited drawing you out this evening, and it's always a pleasure having you discuss. So I'm surprised that my intro was only about your specialty in the extractive industry. Not a lot of people know that you are multi-faceted, an engineer, an election expert, and a peace and conflict expert, and a justice of peace for that matter.
Thank you.
So you've been a huge advocate for harmonizing voter data with the NIN and other national databases. What are the biggest roadblocks that this margin? What are the roadblocks that you think it has met?
Thank you very much. It's always a delight to sit with you and have conversations around these issues. So, well, we have actually advocated for harmonization of data, citizens' data, but you find that we still have issues. One, infrastructure issues. The second thing about data protection for citizens, And then also at times when, even with our phones, at times when you want to use the phone, you have network issues. We're yet to still penetrate every nook and cranny of Nigeria with internet, even though some people have argued to say, oh, that you have your POS working. At times you go and the network is not there. It's important that when you harmonize data across board, all the agencies that need to use that data should have real-time access to that data. You don't want to upload data and suddenly you're shut out of the system, and that's what we're having. Until we're able to get to that level where we have seamless access, to the use of internet, then we will not really be able to have that harmonization. It's really worrisome that, for instance, citizens want to register as a voter, they collect your data, biometrics are taken, you go to the embassies, you're doing biometrics, you're doing NIN, you're doing FRS is also taking biometrics and all. And so many other organizations are coming up with different types of biometrics. Even your international passport, you want to do that, you go again for another biometrics. So as an individual, you're doing almost about 5 biometrics, collecting the same data, but there's no institution that collects the kind of data that NIN, that NIMC collects, for instance. So for me, I would say that solutions will be one. Let us find a way to have a better synergy between these organizations that need this data, harmonize the kind of data that they will need, and then identify the person or the organization that will warehouse that data. I know that a lot of initiatives have been going. For instance, there's a NITA that started 2007 law. You also have the Identity for Development project that is ongoing. But these are still reforms that are ongoing until we're able to integrate all of that data, find a way to build that synergy between all the agencies that need that, and be able to ensure that on your table as an agency, whatever data you need, you're able to upload it real time without even having that issue. Because one of the things I've had the opportunity of having conversation with some of these agencies is that when they need data, for instance, they have to be able to warehouse the data that they need at any point in time so that they can have access to it. So they are not sure that if this data becomes, centralized in a place, that they'll be able to have access to it when they need to have it.
So sometimes when I listen to these conversations, I'm always like, how does it improve elections?
Well, it's really not about the electoral process itself. It's about keeping data of people. It's about ensuring that
Managing
the people
data.
is managing people's data. Because on the day of election, you're not going to go out there and you want to go and first of all tick that your days. The election management body should have their own data to be able to, on the field, like they have the card there. But again, there's something about this. For instance, if you look at the synergy between the police and the Federal Road Safety Commission, for instance, if you have done your biometrics and you have put your data, the police is able to get your data from the FRSC. That kind of a thing is happening. Like there's this new thing that the police started about registration of your vehicle. As soon as you put in your data, if it corresponds with what is on the road safety data, then you are good to go. But the difference between that and the election itself is that, number one, you're able to identify that these people are Nigerians, they are registered, they are within the age bracket to vote, and all of that kind of data, just simple data. The kind of data that the electoral body may need is not the data that, for instance, National Population Commission may need. It is not the same data that the NIMC people will need. It's not the same data that so, but you need to have a centralized data such that if I say I'm Faith Mwadishi, I'm from this place, I put the simple data, you can actually align that with every other data, and you identify that I am that person and not another person that is impersonating.
So when we move around, you hear people ask us, why can't the voter's card simply be made like the ATM card? Where you can, and I know you have background in engineering and technology. I often think that is a simplification of what we are dealing with. Do you think that those kind of questions help? Does it push us to any point where we can begin to think that we do not necessarily need this voter's card anymore?
Okay, so the voter's card is one means of identification. You have to be able to have some data captured for people to vote. So what happens in our case, because we have the beavers and all of those machines that people need to use to be able to identify themselves, is that you have that identity. In the case of the ATM card, without the ATM card also, you really cannot get money out of your account. So it's important that these things are put in place for us to use. So for me, as an individual and as somebody who has followed the entire election process and all of that, I think that it is really important that people have a means of identification. It may not be the card that we are carrying, because we are seeing the fact that people are destroying the card, people are not even collecting the card, but there has to be a way to capture data for citizens who are voting, so that we can get that, get a sense of who is there and who is using the information that we need to use.
The Chairman House Committee on Electoral Reforms recently said that the House is considering additional legislative seats for women in each state. Do you think this would enhance gender inclusivity? And if it does, are there also stronger things that needs to come in to be able, like political party reform processes? Because when people talk about seats, you are talking about the parties. The parties are the ones who fielding candidates.
Yes.
A lot of people say, "Oh, INEC," but INEC has no business in who stands
Yes, that's
elections.
true. I think a lot of people don't really understand what our next mandate is exactly when it comes to elections, and that's why you have some of the issues that you have. For instance, I was excited, really, one, as a woman, that law is coming, but it's something to just hold on to. It's not what we can say is sustainable over time. What we really need is party reforms, political parties to enshrine it within their constitution. Those seats, leave it for women, be able to have the inclusion, be able to have, affirmative action clauses within the constitution, so that over time, when this is not done, people can go and ask for justice, people can go to court and begin to demand for those things to happen. So when you have those seats left for women, that means at the end of the day you have at least 35 or 36 women. If you come to the FCT, you only have one senator. So what are you talking about? Are we going to ask that the FCT should have 3 senators, so that at least out of the 3 senators you have one? Then depending on the other national constituencies. So for each of the states, what you will have is, at least for any time, you have 36 women, whether we like it or not. But going forward, so that we can have more, just like the examples we have from Rwanda, they have done that, is had special seats, but they went further to do reforms and ensure that political parties understood that they needed to be more, this women's participation needed to be more, sustainable over time. It's not because you're feeling that you want to give women some token, just to be on the floor. So we really need to call political parties. We need to ask them to look internally and check their constitution to make it more sustainable for me, so that at the end of the day, women are not just struggling to say, because we have these 36 seats already guaranteed by the law, but from within the political party, they should understand that if they allow more women, open up the space, then you can now have even much more than that, which is more sustainable than
yes. the gifts, as it were. So we'll be going on a short break, but before we do that, there's a flurry of bills running in the National Assembly as we speak now. There is the early voting bill. There is the bill that is introducing upper age limit for contesting election. There is the one that is saying that the appeal court should be the final arbiter in the governorship. Can you take these 3 and share your thoughts on them very quickly before we?
First, yes. I'll look at the one on age. In a democracy, we're all talking about inclusion, and then we are going to the chambers to say we should exclude people because somebody is 60 doesn't keep the person, make the person
Ineligible.
ineligible, to vote. I mean, to be voted for as
Yes.
as the president of. We were all here when we did the law. I'm sure you were part of the people who did the not too young to run law. On one hand, we're saying these people are eligible. On the other hand, we're saying the other people. That's not the principles of democracy. We should actually look for ways to widen the net so that more people can come in. As for the judiciary review of election results and all of that, I think that if we ask that the cases should stop at appeal court,
The governorship.
the governorship case should stop at the appeal court, we will be doing a lot of injustice. People will not be satisfied. There will still be some form of agitation. The fact that we get to the appeal court and to the Supreme Court and people,
The
take
Plateau case, for instance, is
exactly.
if it didn't go to Supreme
Court, perhaps it would have even Kano, happened. It's important that we at least use all avenue to get people, to give justice to people. And then finally, on the issue of the
single day.
The single day. Okay, the single day.
Maybe we'll just go on a short break. When we come back, we'll take the conversation from there. Electoral Reform Hour continues shortly. Stay with us. We're still speaking with Faith Nwadishi, Executive Director of Center for Transparency Advocacy, CTA. So we're diving deep on the issue of single day early voting and all this flurry of bills, as if it's a rain now, a rain bill.
Election is around the corner. It has become a culture that for every election you need to go get some laws or get the new Electoral Act passed. Just before the 2023 election, we had the 2022 Electoral Act, and I am hoping that by 2026, perhaps there will be another Electoral Act that will look at all of that. But I am not in support of the single-day election. One, because of the logistics that happens around it. Now, the elections that we are having now, we have 3 elections on one day. We have the presidential elections, House of Reps and Senate election on one day, and then we have the governorship and the Houses of Assembly election another time. When we advocate for single-day election, it means that we will have the 5 elections in one day. The whole logistic. Last week I was speaking on in one of the national radio stations on this issue, and I felt that, number one, we have not been able to grapple with the logistics issues that we are having with the 3 elections that we have and the 2 other elections that follow. And then considering the total number of persons we have on our voters register, people compare us with other countries and say, oh, these countries are doing one-day election. But when you look at the population of the voters in that country compared to the population of our own voters, we are looking at over 300%.
Our incredible topography.
And the topography, apart from the topography, even the mere human resources that you actually will need. For instance, let me even talk about political parties. So let's say you have 18 political parties, and you have in a polling unit, you have in a particular polling unit, 2,000 polling units, you will have to have 18 political parties times 5 of those elections that you're having, because each political party is expected to have 1 party agent per election. So you're having 5 political party agents times the total number in a particular polling unit. So if you have 18 political parties and you have 5 elections, that means for every election you are going to have close to about 90 people as agents in a polling unit. Then you now move that on to the at the ward level, that's the rack level, before you go.
They're talking about reducing costs. There are people who are arguing that it will help to reduce costs. It would. I don't know how that plays, but you are the experts.
No, but reducing costs, the fact is, what people are looking at is that because you are going to do that, in a day. You will need more security personnel to do that. You need more ad hoc staff to do that. You will need more vehicles, like what all of those logistics issues. But with the way we are handling it right now, you are able to handle the logistics better, so that whatever hitches or challenges you have had in the first election, you're able to address that. But I would rather tweak it. What I say is that rather than having all of the attention we pay on the national election, which is the presidential election, we should actually turn that on its head and pay more attention to governorship and houses of assembly
to the subnational elections.
To the subnational elections, because those are the elections that are closer to the people, that the people can actually hold accountable. So we pay more attention to that, and let us have a decentralized kind of way to hold our national elections. That will be better for us and be more cost effective.
So we also have the bill that is talking about transferring political party registration to a new body. Will that enhance transparency? There is also conversations around independent candidacy and the role that money plays also in our elections, vote buying and all of that. The laws for vote buying, are they strong enough? Are they things that we can do much better to demonetize or decommercialize our electoral process?
The single solution for vote buying for me, I think, is really more of voter education, getting the people to understand, because if the people are not selling, nobody is going to buy. That for me is the silver bullet, I think, that can address the issue of vote buying. And on the issue of the independent candidates that we have, it's a good thing to think about. But if you look at the political party structure that we have and the way we have gone ahead with all of that, the independent candidacy will not really be so strong at this time, because at the end of the day, you need structures, you need the terrain that we have, you need to be able to reach out to people.
Some people call it electoral nicety, but I think it's all about expanding the democratic space. Just zero in, because of time, what do you think about transferring the party registration from INEC to a new body? And then as we move closer to 2027, just in a few seconds, hit at your 3 most important priorities for ensuring transparency and inclusivity.
So number 1 for me is to do electoral reforms. Let's know, because all of those laws we have at the National Assembly, can we streamline them? Can we prioritize them? What are the things that we need to see within our electoral act? For instance, the issue of campaign financing, we should actually look at what stronger penalties. Do we need a body that will have to monitor campaign financing, so that we take that burden away from INEC? Then number 2 is about preparing the citizens for the election. We need to be able to get citizens ready. Strong political campaigns, strong voter education, citizens education, so that citizens really know what their roles are. Like when we talked about the issue of vote buying, I just said the solution to vote buying is for citizens themselves to decide that we don't want to be part of this anymore. So if we're able to attend to those 3 things, priority for me, ensure that all of the laws, we prioritize them, have a law, not just a law that is before the election, but a law we can actually practice like a year before the election. There's nothing wrong if we can have a new electoral act by the end or mid 2025, so that people already are used to it before 2027. Then we need to have the political class again, because they have consistently been the weakest link for our electoral reforms. We need to have a commitment from the political class about the role that they are playing in our elections, and then voter education all the way for me.
This is where we draw the curtain on today's episode of the Electoral Reform Half Hour, and I wish to thank very specially Faith Nwadishi, Executive Director of Center for Transparency Advocacy, for coming on the program. Thank you so very, very much. And thank you for your time. Electoral Reform Half Hour is brought to you by the Peering Advocacy and Advancement Center in Africa, with support from MacArthur Foundation. We are live every Saturday at 8:30 p.m. to 9 p.m. with a repeat broadcast at 2 p.m. on Sundays on this same station. Thank you for watching. I am Ezen Wawagu.